The graveyard shift at the Crystal Lagoon wasn't usually eventful. Just the rhythmic hum of the filtration system, the chlorine smell biting at my nostrils, and the eerie blue glow of the underwater lights painting shadows on the empty deck chairs. Tonight, though, the silence felt wrong. I patrolled the perimeter, my maglite beam cutting through the darkness. The water was still, reflecting the artificial stars etched into the pool house ceiling. Then I saw it. At the far edge of the pool, near the deep end, a figure was hunched. Long, black, slimy-looking hair cascaded down its back and into the water. It was almost impossible to make out any other details in the dim light, but the sheer volume of hair was unsettling. No one swims with hair like that, definitely not at 3 a.m. "Hey!" I called out, my voice echoing in the cavernous space. "Pool's closed. You need to get out." The figure didn't move. Just remained hunched, still as a statue, that awful hair clinging to its back like wet seaweed. Anger flared. I didn't get paid enough to deal with trespassers. I started to walk towards the figure, my footsteps echoing on the tiled floor. As I got closer, something shifted. The water level began to rise. Not gradually, but visibly, almost aggressively. The figure still hadn't moved. I said, "Get out of the pool." My voice was louder now, laced with a tremor I didn't want to acknowledge. I was maybe 10 feet away when the unthinkable happened. The water surged. It overflowed the edge of the pool in a black, churning wave, and with it came more of that hair. It wasn't just hair, it was alive. It writhed, pulsed, a viscous, inky mass slithering over the tiles. Panic seized me. This wasn't a person, not anymore. This was something else, something wrong. I recoiled, but it was too late. A tendril of that black, oily hair snaked out, wrapping around my ankle with surprising strength. I yelped, stumbling backward, trying to shake it off. The hair tightened its grip, pulling me towards the overflowing pool. I clawed at the tiles, my fingernails scraping against the slick surface. The smell was overwhelming, acrid and decaying. I could see the pool now, a churning vortex of black water and writhing hair. Another strand of hair, thicker this time, lashed out and coiled around my wrist. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the rising tide of fear. "No! Get off me!" I screamed, my voice lost in the echoing space. The pull was relentless. I was being dragged towards the edge, closer to the gaping maw of the pool. I thrashed wildly, kicking, pulling, anything to break free. With a desperate surge of adrenaline, I slammed my free hand against the pool edge, hooking my fingers over the lip. The hair on my ankle tightened, and I felt a searing pain as it constricted, cutting off circulation. My muscles screamed in protest. I hung precariously, half in, half out, the monstrous hair trying to drag me into the abyss. Tears streamed down my face, mixing with the chlorine-laced water that now splashed over me. Suddenly, an idea sparked. My mag light, still clutched in my other hand. I swung the heavy flashlight with all the force I could muster, smashing it down on the hair coiled around my wrist. The plastic casing cracked, but the impact did the trick. The hair recoiled, loosening its grip just enough for me to wrench my arm free. Fueled by adrenaline, I scrambled backwards, kicking and flailing. The hair hissed and writhed, reaching for me, but I was out of its reach. I didn't stop running until I was out of the pool house, gasping for breath and shaking uncontrollably. I stumbled into the guard shack, slamming the door shut behind me and locking it. Throughout the night, I stared out at the pool house, expecting something to emerge. Nothing did. But the image of the black, slimy hair, the horrifying pull, and the churning water haunted me. The sun eventually rose, painting the sky in hues of pink and orange. When the day shift guard arrived, he found me huddled in the corner, pale and trembling. He thought I was crazy when I told him my story. "Just a bad dream," he said, patting me on the back. But I knew it wasn't a dream. As I walked away from the crystal lagoon for the last time, I glanced back at the pool. It looked normal, serene, reflecting the clear morning sky. But I knew the darkness still lurked beneath the surface, waiting to be stirred. And I knew I would never go near that place again. The water held a secret, a horrifying secret, and I had glimpsed a piece of it. A piece that would forever cling to me like that slimy, black hair. The chlorine stung my nostrils as I scanned the pool, a ritual I performed every 5 minutes. Kids splashed, moms gossiped, dads pretended to read while actually watching the moms, the usual suburban tableau. I hated the boredom of this job, but the pay was decent, and it kept me in shape. Then I saw him. He was a little guy, maybe 6 or 7, standing at the edge of the diving board, looking hesitant. He bounced once, twice, then leaped with the uncoordinated enthusiasm only a kid can muster. He hit the water awkwardly, a loud smack followed by silence. Too much silence. My training kicked in. I sprinted towards the diving area, my heart hammering against my ribs. I reached the edge, already stripping off my t-shirt, and saw him sinking, his bright red swim trunks a blurry splash of color against the turquoise tiles. No time to think. I dove in, the cool water a shock against my skin. I swam towards him, each stroke powerful and focused. He was deeper than I thought, sinking fast. I kicked harder, reaching him, grabbing his limp arm. He was unconscious. I hooked my arm under his chin, ready to propel us both to the surface. But something was wrong. The boy wasn't rising. I kicked again, harder this time, but we were going nowhere. It felt like I was swimming in molasses. I glanced up, and the surface seemed miles away, distorted and shimmering as if viewed through greasy glass. Panic tightened its grip on my chest. I kicked again, my lungs starting to burn. I needed to get him up, needed to get us both up. But the distance to the surface was increasing, not decreasing. It was as if the pool was getting deeper, the bottom receding at the same rate I was struggling to ascend. My lungs screamed for air. My vision started to blur around the edges. I knew, with a chilling certainty, that I wasn't going to make it. I was too deep, too far. Then, the bottom stopped moving. My vision swam, the blue tiles morphing and shifting. A deep, guttural rumble vibrated through the water, shaking me to my core. As my vision cleared, I saw it. The bottom of the pool wasn't tiles anymore. It was opening, splitting apart like a monstrous, fleshy maw. The edges were raw and jagged, illuminated by a grotesque, deep orange glow that emanated from within. It was huge, impossibly huge, swallowing the entire diving area in its gaping expanse. And then, the boy stirred. He gasped, opened his eyes, and looked around with dawning awareness. But instead of struggling to rise, he looked excited. A weird, unnatural smile spread across his face. He looked down, directly at the monstrous opening, and then, with surprising strength, he pulled himself free of my grasp. He began to swim, not upwards, but down. Towards the gaping maw. He glanced back at me, his eyes now filled with a chilling, knowing malice. A single, silent bubble escaped his parted lips. And then, he swam directly into the monstrous, orange-lit throat. My lungs finally gave way. I gasped, swallowing a mouthful of chlorine-laced water. Blackness crept in from the edges of my vision, the terrifying image of the boy swimming into the abyss, the last thing I saw before the darkness consumed me. The acrid smell of chlorine hung heavy in the air, stinging my nostrils with each breath. I coughed, waving a hand in front of my face, but it was no use. The chlorinator had gone haywire again, pumping far too much of the chemical into the indoor pool. This was the third time this month, and frankly, I was getting tired of spending my evenings as a human guinea pig, testing the water and tinkering with the damn machine. I was just a maintenance man, not a chemist. Give me a leaky pipe or a broken tile any day. But this electronic contraption with its blinking lights and cryptic error codes was my nemesis. My name is Dale, by the way, and this indoor pool and the community center it was attached to made up a good portion of my job. I tightened another bolt on the chlorinator, hoping this would be the fix. The digital display flashed a string of numbers I didn't understand, then settled on a steady, ominous red glow. Great. Just great. I grabbed a pool testing kit from my toolbox and dipped a vial into the water. The color swirled into a deep, unsettling purple. Way off the charts. This wasn't just irritating, it was downright dangerous. Anyone who went in this water would be in for a world of chemical burns and lung irritation. Alright, that's it, I muttered to myself, grabbing my wrench. Time to get serious. I decided to shut down the whole system and restart it. I flipped off the main breaker for the chlorinator, a mechanical click echoing in the otherwise silent pump room. As I reached for the reset button, the lights flickered, sputtered, and then plunged the entire room into darkness. Damn it! I fumbled for my phone, activating the flashlight. The feeble beam cut through the blackness, illuminating the maze of pipes and wires. I felt my way back to the door leading to the pool area. The light switch didn't work. I flipped it up and down a few times, but nothing. Okay, I said, trying to keep the irritation out of my voice. Just a power outage. No big deal. I walked back out into the pool area, my flashlight beam dancing across the smooth, still water. The silence was unsettling. Usually, the hum of the ventilation system and the gentle lapping of water against the sides of the pool filled the space. Now, it was just me and the suffocating smell of chlorine. I decided to call it a night. Let the owners deal with the power outage and the malfunctioning chlorinator in the morning. I was done. As I walked towards the main entrance, I noticed something wasn't right. The normally bright emergency exit signs were dark. The whole place was dead. As I reached for the heavy metal door, I felt a shiver run down my spine. The door wouldn't budge. I tried the other door. Same thing. Locked. Sealed. Panic began to claw its way up my throat. I rattled the handles, slammed my shoulder against the cold metal, but it was no use. I was trapped. And then I felt it. A cold, wet sensation creeping across my shoes. What? I looked down, and my blood ran cold. The water in the pool was rising, inching its way up the tiled sides. It was an unnatural, rapid ascent, as if someone had opened a floodgate somewhere. The toxic, over-chlorinated water. My heart hammered against my ribs. I threw myself against the door again, screaming, yelling, anything to get someone's attention. But the building was deserted. The doors remained stubbornly, mockingly sealed. The water was rising faster now, swirling around my ankles, then my calves. My skin began to tingle, then burn. The chlorine was already at work, eating away at my flesh. I braced myself, took a deep breath, and plunged into the water. The shock of the cold, combined with the searing pain of the chlorine, stole my breath. I paddled frantically towards the shallow end, hoping against hope to find some purchase, some escape. But the water kept rising, relentlessly, mercilessly. It reached my chest, then my neck. I choked, sputtering, struggling to keep my head above the surface. The chlorine burned my eyes, making it impossible to see. My skin felt like it was on fire. I knew I was going to die. I tried to swim, to stay afloat, but my body was weakening. The chlorine was poisoning me, shutting down my lungs, my muscles, my mind. The burning intensified, becoming an all-consuming inferno. The water reached the ceiling. I was trapped in a suffocating, toxic tomb. I gasped for air, but only inhaled more chlorine-filled water. My vision blurred. My limbs felt heavy, unresponsive. I was sinking. Just as I was about to lose consciousness, to succumb to the burning, agonizing darkness, the water vanished. One moment, I was submerged, drowning in a chemical hell. The next, I was sprawled on the cold tile floor, gasping for air, my body screaming in agony. The water was gone. Receded as quickly as it had risen, leaving behind only the acrid smell of chlorine and the burning, throbbing pain in my skin. I lay there, half-conscious, struggling to understand what had just happened. Was it a hallucination? A nightmare? I tried to move, but my body refused to cooperate. Every inch of my skin felt raw, blistered, violated. Then, I saw it. The door, the one that had been sealed shut just moments ago, was now wide open. And silhouetted in the doorway, his face etched with horror, stood Mr. Henderson, the owner of the community center. Dale! Oh my God, Dale, he screamed, rushing towards me. That was the last thing I saw before the darkness consumed me. I woke up in a hospital bed, my body wrapped in bandages. The doctor told me I was lucky to be alive. Severe chemical burns, lung damage, dehydration. It was a miracle I had survived. The police investigated, of course. They found no evidence of foul play, no explanation for the power outage, the malfunctioning chlorinator, or the sudden surge of water. They chalked it up to a series of unfortunate coincidences, a freak accident. But I knew better. I knew what I had experienced. The rising water, the burning chlorine, the suffocating fear. It wasn't a dream. It was real. I spent months recovering, both physically and mentally. The scars on my skin eventually faded, but the memory of that night remained, a constant, chilling reminder of my brush with death. I never went back to the community center. I couldn't. The smell of chlorine alone was enough to send me into a panic attack. I still have nightmares, dreams of rising water and burning skin. But sometimes, in my dreams, I see something else. A figure lurking in the shadows, a shadowy hand manipulating the controls of the chlorinator, a malevolent presence watching me drown. I don't know who or what it was, but I know one thing for sure. That pool didn't just try to kill me by accident. Something, or someone, wanted me dead. And to this day, I have no idea why. Some things aren't meant to be figured out, and some mysteries are better left unsolved. All I know is I am lucky to be alive.